I'm Elise Montanis. I work with LawWorks Illinois by Harmoning Law. We're located in Chicago and work out of the greater Chicagoland area, and we are focused on family law. So we do things anywhere from like estate planning to litigation with families, divorce matters, anything along those lines. I've been doing it for about a decade, and I've got 2 employees now, myself and the employee that I got from RemoteLegalStaff, Sophia. When I decided to look into staffing, I was really concerned about a maternity leave that I had coming up and being able to maintain continuity in my firm throughout any sort of challenges as a solo practitioner. Remote legal staff came up as an option when I was looking around and asking other attorneys what they were doing in order to meet their staffing needs, but also ensure that cost-effective options were available. I was a little nervous about hiring someone in the States because I knew that I might not be able to keep up with the correct quality of life and standard of living with my capacity to pay. And so with those budget ideas in mind, I thought maybe there was something I could do offshore and remote that would help lead me to a place where I could get the staffing that I needed without breaking the bank and still providing the highest quality of life for my employees. It was really important that I was able to continue to pay someone within my budget, but make sure that their quality of life and their standard of living was upheld. Before deciding and ultimately going with Remote Legal Staff, I went through several other options. I was exclusively looking for something remote, and I knew that I did not have the resources to find someone that actually met the qualifications I needed. So I mostly looked at other organizations that did this kind of thing, had that HR background, and were able to find kind of qualified candidates for me. That being said, the other options were either really expensive to do the upstart, they weren't as communicative, they didn't give me kind of previews of what I would be looking at. Remote Legal Staff hit all the marks and made me feel like I was going to be kind of handheld along the way, while also giving me the autonomy to make the decisions I needed to make for my business. So what ultimately brought me to Remote Legal Staff, and frankly considering a remote staffing option in general, was I was about to go on maternity leave. I knew that as a solo practitioner, I wanted continuity in my firm while I could take kind of a substantial break. And I knew that there was going to be other life events that would lead me to needing that continuity of staffing in my firm. That being said, I'm a solo and I don't have a huge budget, and it was really important for me to consider maintaining a standard of living and quality of life for my employee while also not breaking the bank. So looking overseas where things are a little cheaper was a huge benefit to me, and having a firm or organization that could help me do that correctly and appropriately and help manage all of that back end stuff was absolutely what I needed going into my situation. So Remote Legal Staff was a perfect fit. There were several things that stood out to me with Remote Legal Staff service options, including the absolute connection I made with the customer service agents right away. I worked with Finn, who was super helpful in being able to walk me through what my options were, who my candidates were. He really got to know me as a person and was able to actually make a connection to what I needed rather than just being a form on a web page or a quick conversation about I need a paralegal or I need a marketing agent. He actually talked to me and got to know me so he could better help me match with someone that would fit my personality and fit the business the best way possible. Remote Legal Staff provided a plethora of qualifications of candidates, different levels for me, really looking for what I needed and matching up different options based on basically how much they would cost, right? Higher level of education was going to be more expensive. Higher level of experience was going to be more expensive. And also giving me kind of options on the lower end of experience so that I could prefer or focus on personality and then know that I could kind of teach them along the way. away. So when I spoke with my customer service agent, I was talking about like, okay, I know I want this kind of personality. I don't really care what level they're at as long as it's a good fit. So working on kind of interviewing and seeing the qualifications from folks that had very little experience but were awesome people, all the way through full level attorneys that had been practicing and, knew the courtroom, knew kind of what filings looked like, and could jump right into whatever I needed them to do. The interview process with RemoteLegalStaff was a breeze. I really appreciated that I got to preview all of the candidates on a platform and saw like a little intro video from them. I got to see what their qualifications were. They had a standardized resume, which was really nice, so I could easily compare and contrast my candidates. And then when I actually went to go interview, I only interviewed the folks that I really wanted to move forward with, and I was able to sit and interview everybody, take the time I needed with everybody, whether it was a 10-minute interview or, an hour interview. The folks with RemoteLegalStaff were really helpful in making that happen. They did everything for me. They did the scheduling, they found the candidates, and then all I had to do was show up. And it was awesome. It was really great. And then the questions we asked, they had some that they prepared for me just to make it a little easier. And then I had questions I wanted to ask. And depending on the candidate, we used a combination of both. And it was really great. The other thing I really liked about the interview process with RemoteLegalStaff is that there was somebody from RemoteLegalStaff on the interviews with me. So I kind of was able to partner and talk about, okay, this is what I thought of this candidate. What did you think? Or, have a little bit of a back and forth and conversation, which made it a lot easier to actually narrow down my candidates when I could run those ideas and bounce ideas off of another person. Onboarding, training, all of that with my eventual candidate that I chose and hired through RemoteLegalStaff was a little nerve-wracking for me because of my timeline. So I knew I wanted my employee to jump right in and have a lot of information thrown at her right away. So I worked with Finn to start kind of a training manual on my end, and Remote Legal Staffing has a ton of resources too on what should you look for within the first 30 days, what should you look for in the first 60 to 90 days, and continually checked in with me on either a weekly basis or eventually bi-weekly, monthly basis to ensure that I felt super secure and also that my paralegal felt super secure in what my expectations were and the expectations of the firm. The biggest thing I think that Remote Legal Staffing gave me was the security blanket of another person walking through with me. I didn't have to feel alone. I didn't feel like I was doing this by myself. I felt like if my paralegal was not catching up to what I needed, they were right there to supplement. And frankly, I have the best candidate. My paralegal is amazing and barely needed anything, right? But Remote Legal Staffing was right there with me the entire time, which was really nice. So training for my firm required a lot of just catching up on how to use my particular software. And that was, it wasn't hard, right? I hired someone that I knew could follow direction, and I hired someone that I knew would use their resources. So it wasn't bad, even though that was something I was pretty nervous about. The onboarding and training process with Remote Legal Staff was something that I was actually kind of nervous about. I had a tight timeline where I needed my employee to get on board really quickly, and I was a little nervous about being able to train her and ensure that she was going to feel successful in a very short amount of time. And I felt like the entire time Remote Legal Staff was on my team. I had check-ins either weekly, bi-weekly, eventually monthly, and at any point where I felt like I needed additional training or additional support, Remote Legal Staff was right there, and I felt really supported in that process. Ultimately, I picked a great candidate. She was able to jump into things really quickly and able to learn like my personal software super easily. But where there were like little lags or things that she could improve on or that she didn't really understand, there's like this whole system Remote Legal Staff has, or this whole, resource list for anybody to use to jump in and get more information about, I don't know, anything from like using a VPN to background information that might be useful for the various softwares that law firms use. So it was great. I did not need to be fearful. It actually went really well. So the training process and getting someone on board brand new absolutely was a fear of mine. And to those lawyers out there that think that they don't have time to train someone, I hear you. I felt that. And ultimately, I think that using RemoteLegalStaff gives you sort of that extra support that you need to get folks onboarded and trained, in addition to all of these other resources that they're providing before you even get started. So RemoteLegalStaff left me with all kinds of resources about what might I need for the first 30 days. I didn't think ahead of time about, oh gosh, what would I want my paralegal to be able to do within the first 3 months. RemoteLegalStaff was able to walk me through, here's some suggestions, here's things that other attorneys have done, and made sure that I felt like I was going to be successful, and then continued to hold my hand through the process. So for those of you who don't think you have time, partnering is probably the best way to do it, right? Having that support system behind you that can answer questions to, your staffing, like the person that you're staffing, but also to answer your own questions about onboarding and training. Ultimately, the time that it took for me was a little bit of prep time before I actually hired anybody, but once that person was on board, they took the reins in walking through various steps and even encouraged employees to do additional training if they had extra time, in order to make sure that they felt really secure in all of the different aspects of what I was looking for and what I needed. My offshore staff from RemoteLegalStaff does a little bit of everything. I hired a paralegal. That's the title that I hired, but she's become so much more. Because it's just me right now, her and I kind of tackle everything from marketing, drafting, answering phone calls, literally anything that needs to be done on a daily basis, she's handling. A big thing has been calendaring, writing orders after court dates. I can give her just like, hey, we're gonna be doing a status on this date with this person in this location. Can you draft up the order? And it's taking a huge burden off of my plate to be able to move on to the next like big legal task rather than doing those administrative things, which is amazing. She also though is doing some of that drafting for those motions that are really just kind of run of the mill, right? A petition for dissolution is very, very similar no matter who you're filing it for. And so after a couple of months of reading them and reviewing them and sending them off for signature, my offshore staff has been able to actually do that for me. So taking a very concrete, huge thing off my plate on a daily basis as we're getting in new clients. And ultimately, this has made me able to do more legal work, which makes me able to take on more clients and make more money. So RemoteLegalStaff obviously is hiring someone remotely, so they're never going to be in the office, and that's the whole thing. I think the biggest thing I'm missing is I wish I had someone to go pick up my mail. Having to pick up my mail by myself and having to go into the office just to grab some mail or scan it in is the most annoying part of having remote staff. But otherwise, we can do everything virtually. She sends mail virtually. We have a system for that. She's able to check any sort of messaging that goes in and out. She can check all the court dockets. Like, there's nothing in the mail for the most part that is even that big of a deal at this point. It's just, that's my one thing that I wish I had a person that could actually come into the office, but otherwise I'm not missing anything. So it's good. RemoteLegalStaff really helped with my performance, making sure that everything was taken care of for my staff person. I felt like I had my own evaluations that I was doing that I really appreciated and could look back on and make sure that we were checking the boxes I needed for them to accomplish. But I also knew that RemoteLegalStaff was there on the back end doing their own evaluations of the progress and the different things that my staff member was expected to be doing. So on a regular basis, I was asked to kind of give evaluations and feedback that went directly to Remote Legal Staff. So I felt like somebody else could kind of take the brunt if that was needed, which it wasn't. My staff member is amazing, but I had that kind of extra set of eyes on things and extra support when I did need something, or if there was an issue with performance. The quality of the candidate was never a question in my case, fortunately, but I knew that if there was an issue, I felt like at any point I could go to Remote Legal Staff and say, this isn't a good fit, I need something a little bit different. But just wasn't an issue for me because my staff person is amazing. The communication level with Remote Legal Staff has been awesome. They sort of let me take the lead. At the beginning, we were a lot more communicative because we were making sure that I felt supported, my paralegal was supported, we knew kind of the procedures and policies and all that stuff, right? All the beginning stuff. But it was all on my terms. I could book an appointment for a phone call, we could just email back and forth. So it was genuinely like however I felt or whatever I needed. I felt like I was kind of in the driver's seat for that. So I don't think I ever went more than like 12 hours without a response. They were extremely communicative, constantly, checking to make sure that things are okay. If I needed anything, they were right there. So the responsiveness was huge. And I also just really appreciated that it was sort of on my time. So I didn't feel like I had to respond to something or I had to do something if it didn't fit, what I was doing that day. But also in the reverse, they were so communicative right away whenever I needed them. I was a little nervous about managing an exclusively remote legal team, and Remote Legal Staff was really there to help walk me through how to make it as simple as possible. The biggest thing that I was concerned about was not being able to make that personal connection with the person working for me. The work that I do is really personal. We are working with folks going through some of the most difficult times in their life, and I wanted to make sure that I could check in with my employee about how they're feeling and ensure that they're kind of taking care of themselves while we're taking care of these other people. And not being able to be with someone sitting right next to me in an office made me a little nervous about whether or not I'd be able to kind of handle that, manage that, and be kind of the best supervisor and boss I could be. Remote Legal Staff made it super easy. There were constant check-ins. They have systems in place to make sure that we felt like we were connecting with each other. And ultimately, we fell into this rhythm where we really did get to know each other. And Sophia, my paralegal, is now one of my absolute best friends. Like, it's great. Managing that remote team, I think that personal connection, I was nervous about missing that, and it really has not been an issue because of the systems that we developed, which includes something as simple as just hopping on the phone once a day. We do video chats and ensure that we're checking in with each other. Data privacy and confidentiality are obviously huge issues for any firm, and Remote Legal Staff takes that very seriously. It was one of the initial questions I asked before I even started looking at candidates with Remote Legal Staff, because working with someone remotely, especially in a different country, I wanted to make sure that there were eyes on kind of that issue, both from just a general data standpoint, a confidentiality standpoint, a trustworthiness issues. So I did look into kind of how they worked it out, and there are, not only did they do trainings on confidentiality for Sophia, my paralegal, but they also had plenty of documentation on how they were keeping things secure that I could review. So I felt really confident by the end of kind of my conversations with Remote Legal Staff that things are going to be okay. On just a personal level, I asked my paralegal Sophia to just not have her computer open at a coffee shop. Don't log into our, client confidential matters when you're at the park. So working remotely didn't mean that, you could literally work anywhere. I wanted to make sure that there was always a secure location. Sophia and Remote Legal Staff actually checks all of that ahead of time for you. They talk to their candidates, make sure that they have, secure internet, that they can actually have a secure connection, And I felt really confident that all of that was taken care of for me. And then just did kind of quick check-ins as we went along and made sure that I implemented some procedures on my own, like using a password keeper and those general things that we all know we should be doing anyway. I understand as a lawyer, it can be really challenging to think outside the box and decide that managing a remote staff is worth it and doable. I think that we as lawyers are sort of constantly living in the dark ages. And while COVID dragged us all out and got us virtual into the courtrooms, there is still a lot of trepidation around whether or not your staff is going to do the work that they need to be doing, or that they're actually working 8 hours a day for what you're paying them to do. RemoteLegalStaff kind of handles that entirely. I understand that my paralegal, Sophia, had a time clock that she was using, that if she wasn't active for a certain amount of time, or if she was active on websites that weren't appropriate, they would flag that. They would flag it for me, they'd flag it for her. And what I loved is that they managed it first. So for example, Sophia was on Facebook and I told her to be on Facebook because we were doing some marketing stuff, but RemoteLegalStaff didn't know that because I had not communicated that expectation. So RemoteLegalStaff first went to Sophia and said, hey, you're not supposed to be on social media. What are you doing? And didn't kick her off of it, but just, flagged it. And Sophia explained, this is part of, the work that I'm doing freely. So we talked about it and it was resolved because there was that trust built. If there's ever been a time where I told Sophia, hey, take the hour, take an hour off at the end of the day, you're ending early today, just for fun, I would just send a quick message to RemoteLegalStaff saying, Sophia's off for the last hour of the day. She's still getting paid, but her timer is going to be off. It's all above board, it's all kosher. And so again, that partnership between myself and RemoteLegalStaff being able to manage my employee the way I want to, but also having the backup of someone kind of keeping an eye on things and not involving me in the minutia if it wasn't needed. Working with legal staff, remote staff with RemoteLegalStaff was way more cost effective for me. First of all, it took the burden of the administrative costs of just getting things set up in a payroll account or ensuring I understood the legal ramifications of hiring someone from a different country. I didn't have to take the time to do any of that. So just from a time standpoint, and time is money, that was extremely cost effective for me. On top of that, it's just other countries where they're hiring from, their cost of living is much lower and they can have a much higher quality of life with a budget-friendly payment from our end. So budget-friendly options were a huge deal for me, and RemoteLegalStaff was able to offer cost-effective options kind of on two ends. The first is they literally, took time to find the candidate that was, great for me. They took the time to understand the legal ramifications of hiring overseas. All of that stuff that I'd have to figure out made it so that it was so much easier to hire offshore. And literally, time is money, right? So I wasn't spending the hours of my own time trying to do that research and find those people and get that all together. That's one part of it. The other part of it is literally the cash, right? I literally am saving money by hiring offshore, but still maintaining a high quality of life for my employees. So my paralegal is, absolutely getting paid what is appropriate for her where she lives, which is way cheaper than what I would have to pay someone to hire here and local. The amount of money that I'd be spending paying for someone locally would probably be cost prohibitive to me actually hiring. So this was giving me the opportunity to hire, to expand, to grow without putting me in the poorhouse and putting me out of money myself. So it was literally a non-negotiable. I couldn't have done it without RemoteLegalStaff. So after hiring with RemoteLegalStaff, the ROI is amazing. I have certainly been able to take on more cases, but I think more importantly, my stress level has gone down. I feel like I've got someone else that's on my team. My paralegal, Sophia, is there and really in it with me. So my level of stress has decreased immensely, and I can't put a price on that. But to put an actual, dollar amount is hard to do, but I've certainly been able to take on more cases because I've got the support of another person there. So I am literally making more money, even though I'm paying out money, obviously, to pay Sophia, but the amount of money that I'm paying her is less than the amount of money that I'm making. I have an accountant. This is not my thing, but the important thing is I'm definitely able to make more money. My stress levels decreased, and the amount of money that I'm putting out to pay Sophia is less than all of that, and everything has exceeded my expectations. I really didn't think I could be this much more productive with just adding one paralegal to my staff. Remote Legal Staff has really been able to jumpstart my next steps in increasing my volume at my firm, being able to bring down my stress level as a person, as a solo practitioner, and given me the confidence to move forward and hopefully continue to hire. I was really nervous about making that first hire, not fully understanding the implications of the human resources side of things, whether or not I was going to be putting so much money into someone and not being able to get it back. I feel like overall, Remote Legal Staff was an amazing partner for me in not only getting me through that onboarding process, ensuring that everything was above board with all of the, legal implications of hiring offshore, and ultimately bringing me to the paralegal that I'm working with, who has become truly one of my best friends. Sophia and I work so seamlessly together, and it is because Remote Legal Staff gave us that opportunity, set us both up for success from the beginning, and then continued to check in and make sure that we both felt supported throughout the process. I really appreciated that Sophia had someone to go to other than myself if things were going wrong or things were concerning, or she just had a question that she didn't want to ask directly to me. It was such a relief that there was kind of this other organization helping us through those steps, and Remote Legal Staff just provided that exceptional service for us. For lawyers who are nervous about hiring offshore, I hear you. I talked to a lot of my friends who had tried it ahead of time and wanted to make sure that I was doing everything correctly, that I wasn't going through an agency or an organization that was not going to support kind of both of us. I wanted my paralegal to be supported, but I also wanted to feel supported, and I wanted to make sure everything was above board. I wanted the person that I was going to work with to feel like they had a great quality of life. And even though I knew that my budget was lower than what I could hire locally, I didn't want to sacrifice that person's overall quality of life and standard of living just because I had a lower budget. Remote Legal Staff kind of solved all of that by being able to hire someone with me that was living in a place that's just cheaper, right? Like, different places are cheaper to live, and we're able to match the budget that I had in order to kind of make that perfect fit. So for those of you who are nervous about it, Remote Legal Staff handles all of it. They handle all the legalities of it. They ensure that the HR stuff is all taken care of, like the taxes, whatever that need to be done in that other location are completely handled and dealt with for you. All you have to do is get in touch with the candidate and work with them and hire them. And yeah, it's easy. It's great. The apprehension is real, but there's no reason for it. I would absolutely recommend Remote Legal Staff to other lawyers, other law firms, and I think that they are in such a unique position to actually support law firms. It's what they do, and they have such a huge amount of lawyers that they have supported in the past, so they can talk to you about things that you might not have even thought of, and also support you on the back end of things that are unique to your firm individually. So I feel like it's absolutely an organization that I will use again and continue to enjoy the partnership with. So it's been awesome, and I would strongly recommend to anybody that's thinking about staffing in general, especially if you're thinking about remote staffing, and whether or not you're nervous about remote staffing, whether or not you're nervous about offshore hiring, Remote Legal Staff makes it really easy and helps you to understand kind of the entire process while also being so specific specific to what we need, right? It's not just like a general staffing service. It's not a general offshore service. Like, they know what we need as lawyers, as law firms, and the specific kind of tasks that might be useful to us and are already set up for that. So there's no kind of miscommunication about, the language that we might use or the things that we might need. They've heard it before, they know it, and they're able to help.